Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and today we're going to go over and break down all of the Week 3 matchups for your fantasy football lineups, talking about who we should be starting, who should we be sitting, and most importantly, who we should be monitoring as our next waiver wire ad pickups for next week. Unfortunately, if you're here from last week's Week 2 coverage, on a boom or doom scale, last week was a doom. But let Week 2 be Week 2. This is Week 3. I know I let the people down. I am absolutely locked in right now. If I'm not locked in already, going to lock in. But let's roll the intro first. And I'm absolutely so locked in to make sure that Week 3 is going to be a boom and not a doom. I even brought the magic elixir. But let's start with business, and let's talk an exciting matchup, the Jets and Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Breece Hall considered to have a tough matchup. He's probably going to be the number one RB scoring this week. Definitely not saying to take him out of your lineups. Definitely start him. Definitely play him. Just something to be mindful of. It might be a slow game. Maybe they sprinkle in Braylon Allen again. That could very well be possible. Garrett Wilson, his counterpart, should obviously also be started. Probably not looking to start Aaron Rodgers. As for the other side of the ball now with the Patriots, you're definitely going to start Ramondre Stevenson. It's actually a great matchup for Ramondre Stevenson, so maybe even upgrade his value a little bit more than normal this week. In terms of wide receivers, in terms of quarterback play, in terms of the tight end now, I know Hunter Henry was a hot commodity on the waiver wires. Can't really trust any of these guys to put up fantasy numbers for you, so don't put them in your lineups yet, but they are potentially going to be good stashes. Moving on to the Sunday 1 o'clock slate, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about the passing attack first for Tampa Bay. Obviously, Godwin and Evans are stuck in your lineup. You can't take them out right now. Baker Mayfield should have a pretty good game yet again. I don't know if he's going to put up his elite stature that he was the first two games. Moving on to the running back, Rachaad White is definitely a must-start piece. I view him as like a mid-tier RB2 this week. For the Broncos, their offense is obviously a mess. If you have Courtland Sutton and you really need to play him, you can play him. In terms of the running backs, I would really upgrade Javonte Williams in this matchup. Again, we haven't seen enough yet to know that he's 100% going to be the workhorse. He's probably not going to be. But this could be a game where it cements for the rest of the season that he is an every down back going forward. He was able to catch passes out of the backfield last week, and he looked pretty good. On to the next matchup. That would be the Houston Texans going up against the Minnesota Vikings. At the time of me recording this on Wednesday, it seems probably likely that Joe Mixon is either going to be out or not 100% in this game on Sunday. So if you want to play him at your own risk. I would say Cam Akers is a really good play if Joe Mixon is to miss time. And as for the running backs on the other side of the ball, Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler are very good. They're very complementary to one another. And it's kind of looking like it's going to hinder the upside of Aaron Jones going forward. We thought maybe he could have been like a top 15 back this season. But the Vikings are using him correctly in hopes that he doesn't injure himself as he normally does. And that's got to limit how high I could rank Aaron Jones every week, knowing that they do trust Ty Chandler that much. But I'm not saying that you should be sitting Aaron Jones. I'm just saying start him and be mindful that, his better days may be dwindling. All the wide receivers in this game got to be started. Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson. If you got him, you're playing him. You're not holding back. Next matchup of the 1 o'clock games is going to be the Chargers and the Steelers, and this should be an exciting one. Pittsburgh has been really tough against the run, and these new-look Chargers that are undefeated, by the way, have no trouble running the ball whatsoever. It's actually their main point of emphasis. I do think J.K. Dobbins will fall back down to earth with his stat line this week. He is a really good running back, really good fit for the scheme. It's just the Steelers are very good at stopping the run and playing well against running backs. J.K. Dobbins has had an incredible start to the season, but don't get too high on just 2 games so early in the NFL season, because we could go back and show time and time again how these hot starts don't always mean that they're potentially league-winning players. This is also going to be a tough matchup for George Pickens. Now, I'm not saying that he should be put on your bench, but definitely temper your expectations with him this week. He may not have that good of a showing against his defense. But this should be a good matchup for Najee Harris, as I would definitely start him if you have him in your leagues. But now going back to the Chargers, If you have their wide receivers, Ladd McConkey, you could even throw in Joshua Palmer this week. They could potentially have a good game, but this is probably going to be a low-scoring affair. The next matchup is the Eagles versus the Saints, and this should be a very fantasy-friendly game. Let's start with the red-hot Saints, who absolutely beat the absolute dog out of my Dallas Cowboys. Let me start by saying the Saints are legit. This offense is going to put up points in fantasy for us this year. If you have Derek Carr, definitely get him in your lineups this week. If you have Alvin Kamara, he's obviously not coming out of your lineup. Rashid Shaheed must be started this week against the Eagles. They don't have a very good secondary whatsoever. And now for the Eagles, you should be really excited about all these players because whether it's Devontae Smith, whether it's Saquon Barkley, whether it's Jalen Hurts, even Dallas Goedert. Next, we have the Packers versus the Titans. And this is a good one because this is the Malik Willis revenge game here. You got two solid running backs you have to be playing in this matchup, and that would be Tony Pollard and Josh Jacobs, obviously. But even guys like Calvin Ridley and Jaden Reed must be started. I'm sorry, I don't see Jaden Reed in his 2 targets last week as a sign of do not play this player anymore without Jordan Love in the lineup. Instead, we should just be accepting what it is, just like it was at the end of last year. Every single week, there's going to be a different guy that goes off. Whether it's Christian Watson, whether it's Dontavian Wicks, whether it's Jaden Reed himself, they all take turns having big games. So don't take him out of your lineups because you might miss out on that big game that you drafted him for. Next up, we have the Giants and the Browns. Kind of a sleeper for fantasy purposes. Devin Singletary, got to play him. I know Jerome Ford did not have as good a game as I thought he would, and Deontay Foreman made his way into the lineup a lot, but I still like Jerome Ford in this matchup over Foreman and going forward. In terms of wide receivers, Malik Neighbors must be started. No, I don't think he'll have as many targets as he did last week, but uber talented wide receiver. We all know that he should be in your lineups every single week. Want to play Amari Cooper? You can. I don't want to call this an Amari Cooper hate channel, but you've seen the videos I've made about Amari Cooper. The next game we're going to talk about is the Bears versus the Colts. Again, at the time of me recording this video, Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are questionable. Rome Odunze will probably play. Maybe he'll get a little closer to 100%, but if Keenan Allen does play, he's definitely not going to be anywhere near 100%. It's going to take him a little while to get back. So DJ Moore, got to play him. The other 2 wide receivers, I would be hesitant to play. DeAndre Swift hasn't given you much of a reason to want to play him, but if you need to, you can play him. Jonathan Taylor on the other side of the ball, obviously locked into your lineups. Anthony Richardson, obviously locked into your lineups, even though he had a very bad game last week, and I'll acknowledge that. And Michael Pittman, as we all know, is off to a slow start this season. He usually heats up regardless, but it's something to keep in mind that his stats do go down when Anthony Richardson is his quarterback. So just tread carefully, I guess, with Michael Pittman for the rest of the season. You obviously got to play him because he's super talented, but not the best scenario for him. Now let's get into the 4 o'clock games. Let's start with the Seahawks versus the Miami Dolphins. I almost don't even want to talk about the Dolphins. Speedy recovery to Tua. I'm just so heartbroken about what the potential could have been for an offense in fantasy like theirs. But unfortunately, you got to just roll out your Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddles and just hope for the best every single week. No, you don't have that safe floor that you thought you had when you were drafting your team this year, but hopefully Tua can come back, or hopefully Skylar Thompson can up his quarterback play and give you more reliable weeks in fantasy from your Dolphins receivers. With how poor tight ends have been this year, and you want to get a little interesting, get a little frisky, throw a dart throw at tight end, I am going to say officially that Jonnu Smith is now playable. In terms of the other side of the ball, obviously DK Metcalf and JSN have to be in your lineups. They looked incredible last week. Whoever ends up getting the nod out of the Seattle backfield, whether it's Ken Walker comes back or it's Charbonnet again, that one starter has to be played. Moving on now, we have the Panthers versus the Raiders. With the quarterback change, I'm going to say Andy Dalton this week is playable in fantasy if you need a quarterback. This would also mean we're going to see an uptick in work for Deontay Johnson, so maybe he'll finally pay off at his ADP like we all thought he would. Now, for the other side of the ball, Devontae Adams, obviously lock him in your lineup. I think Jacoby Myers is going to have a good week, so I would put him in my lineup if you had him. And this should be Zamir White's best game of the season, where the Zamir White truthers come out and say this guy is still a legit back. He's still going to be the every down back for them, and then Alexander Mattison will take that job over. Coming up next, we have the Ravens playing the Cowboys. And man, I hate to sound biased here, but I hope the Ravens smack the Cowboys. What we learned about Dallas last week, no, it's not that they can't stop the run. It's that they refuse to stop the run. So you're definitely going to start Derrick Henry and even Justice Hill with confidence. Zay Flowers, that is a tricky subject. I'm 1-1 with these takes now. So I said he wasn't gonna have a good game. He didn't have a good game. Then I said he wasn't gonna have a good game, and he had a really, really good game. And part of me wants to say he's gonna have a bad game, and he's gonna go off against my Cowboys, and I'm gonna be pissed off. But if I say he's gonna have a good game, then I feel like I'm only saying that so that he mushes the Cowboys' chances of winning and actually puts up good numbers. But if I'm taking the bias aside, this is fantasy football. This is my fantasy football insight and advice. I'm going to say this is not a good game for Zay Flowers. This is more of Lamar Jackson hitting Isaiah Likely somewhere over the middle of the field or in those little scramble drills on the sidelines. The Cowboys have never been good at stopping the run. The Cowboys have never been good in scramble or defending the sidelines, as we've seen in history. So I'll take my chances with those things happening over Zay Flowers. But from here on out, now we have good games to look forward to. We have the Rams versus the 49ers up next. The Rams are down to nothing at wide receiver, so you're probably going to play Tyler Johnson and Demarcus Robinson if you have them. But I personally would be advising that you look to add Jordan Whittington, wide receiver on the Rams. You could play him if you need to play him this weekend, but he could be a potentially really good stash if Kupp and Nakua are going to miss time. If you have Kyron Williams, obviously he's locked into your lineup. Maybe these Rams injuries could lead potentially to seeing more play design for Blake Corum. I highly doubt it, but we could be optimistic about it. And for the Niners, obviously starting Jordan Mason. I don't know what to expect from Brock Purdy at the quarterback position. Not saying stay away, but definitely temper expectations this week. Deebo Samuel is out, so you're definitely starting Brandon Ayuk with confidence. You could start Ricky Pearsall if you needed to. George Kittle, obviously lock him in for a top tight end finish. And now we're moving on to the next game. That would be the Cardinals and the Lions. If Amon-Ra, if J-Mo are playing, lock him in your lineups. Jared Goff should have a bounce-back game. You could throw him in your lineups. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are proving yet again you can start both of them. James Conner, somebody I personally thought wasn't going to have a good season, is a must-start at the running back position. Then Kyler Murray, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously. All of those guys are must-starts, and that's pretty much it in terms of who you can play and who you can't play. Then we have Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs versus the Falcons. Drake London might actually get put in handcuffs on primetime football because I can't see him going anywhere on Trent McDuffie. But regardless of what I think about the cornerback wide receiver matchup, Bijan Robinson must be started. If Kirk Cousins has a good game in this one against a tough defense, then we know going forward we could start him, but we can't take that chance right now. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes must be started. If you're going to play a running back, I would say it's going to be Carson Steele this week, but we really don't know how that's going to end up. Rashee Rice, guy is amazing. Got to be locked into your lineups. Got to be a top 12, 15 option this season. If you have Xavier Worthy, definitely get him in your lineups. Travis Kelce has been very disappointing, but you can definitely play him with confidence this week. If you got Kyle Pitts, obviously, as well, another tight end in this matchup, should be playing him if you have him. I'm not expecting too much, but you should be playing him. And now, 2 Monday night games, they spoiling us now. So the first Monday night game is the Jaguars versus the Bills. Let's start with the easy one. The running backs, James Cook, ETN, got to be locked in your lineups. The only other guy that resembles a running back in this matchup, Josh Allen, is must playable in this matchup. For the Bills wide receivers, it looks like Khalil Shakur is the only one currently that you can start with confidence. I definitely would be expecting better days from Curtis Samuel soon as his turf toe injury starts to kind of, fade into something that was just training camp and no longer linger into the regular season. Dalton Kincaid must be played. Now for the other side, the Jaguars, I would not play Trevor Lawrence in this matchup. It's a good defense. Brian Thomas Jr. can be started as he showed last week. 2 catches, he could still be startable in fantasy. I'm hoping this is the Evan Ingram get right game, but I honestly don't know. But In terms of this matchup, those are only really the guys that I feel comfortable with starting in this game. And the last game of Monday Night Football, we have the Commanders versus the Bengals. For the Commanders, Jaden Daniels, Brian Robinson, those are must starts. Terry McLaurin, no longer a must-start category. The Bengals, you have to play Joe Burrow. Zach Moss must be started, and Jamar Chase, and if T. Higgins does end up playing, those guys got to be started, but it seems like Andre Yosefis is making the most of his work. If you needed a wide receiver, I would say you can play him. In terms of the tight ends, Zach Ertz and Mike Gesicki are both fairly sneaky tight end starts if you want to play somebody different this week. But that's all I have for players we should be starting in a Week 3 recap. I know this was a long video, so I won't keep you too much longer. If you liked this video, thank you so much. If you stayed and watched to the end, thank you. If you like content like this, if you like fantasy football content, feel free to hit the like button for me. I would really appreciate it. And if you like fantasy football content and you want to see my ugly face again, make sure you subscribe down below. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.